I think it's important to acknowledge, right, that we've had an incredibly difficult 14 months on this planet, right? We've had so many experiences that have been challenging. You know, friends and family potentially have been unwell. We potentially lost loved ones. We've had experiences over the last 14 months that we never expected, that we had a certain amount of external freedom taken away from us, right? We were issued with, you know, the news that we had to go into lockdown, that we had to stay indoors, that we had to, you know, forbid ourselves from seeing our loved ones. And I know that, you know, in the UK that is still continuing to, you know, unfold, if you like. I know it's relaxing at the moment, and I hope that's bringing optimism. But it's been a challenging year. It's been a challenging year for people who've lost jobs or been furloughed, or individuals who, you know, have found themselves not able to see their families or their partners. We have a friend that's been unable to see, you know, their kids for 9 months and be united with their family. So I want to acknowledge that the experience over the last 14 months, the external environment, has been incredibly challenging. And that challenge often provokes some intense emotions within us. Anger, frustration, pain, suffering. It brings to the surface a lot of these experiences that may be lying dormant. Now, here's the thing. It is easy to fall into the trap, especially when we watch the news and the media, of blame, of projecting, of, you know, venting that frustration and anger. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. But the challenge is that the only person that leaves feeling in disarray is ourselves. You know, when we've got all of that anger and frustration pent up within us, expressing it is great, because we want to allow its space to be released. And we can do that, you know, through movement, through physical activity, through shouting, but we can also do it by shining the light of awareness and allowing that energy and motion, that emotion, to have time and space to process. Now, here's the other thing though, that usually when we get caught in that sensation of anger and frustration and hatred and blame, hatred might be too strong for you, but for some it is hatred, right? It's this feeling of being denied, this feeling of being restricted, of having our freedom taken away from us. And so it's easy in that intense experience of emotion for our mind to then get caught up in the experience. And so rather than processing those emotions or those feelings in a healthy way, we end up staying entangled in them. And the detriment of remaining entangled in that experience is that our well-being, our vitality, our inner sense of peace is then affected. And that's really what these IG Lives are all about. You know, the intention behind them is to help you, regardless of what is going on around you, regardless of what is going on in your world, that you can find this sacred space within you, which is one of peace, one of joy, one of bliss, one of love, one of connection, one of compassion, one of empathy. That is always available to us, our inner state. And it reminded me of a great quote that Viktor Frankl, the Austrian neurologist, you know, who was a survivor of, you know, the concentration camps during the Second World War, a survivor of Auschwitz. He said that everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. What a powerful statement, right? Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. And what Viktor Frankl realised and recognised is that regardless of the pain and the torture and the suffering that he was experiencing and witnessing on the outside, there was one thing that could never be taken away, and that was the freedom within him to choose how he responded. That freedom, I believe, is something that is innate within us. In the same way that I believe that peace and love and joy and compassion and bliss is our innate state, I believe that when we occupy that state, we experience an inner freedom that is untouchable or unchangeable, regardless of what is going on in our external environment. So, this is what I'm talking about. Over the past 14 months, the challenges we went through, it's natural for us to feel frustrated. It's natural for us to feel angry. It's natural for us to feel sad. It's natural for us to feel, I suppose, annoyed and upset and a whole range of emotions. And it's important, and that part of these teachings is that we accept that, right? We don't beat ourselves up or judge ourselves for it. In the same way that as long as we're aware of how we're feeling and we're aware of our response or our reaction in that moment, then we have the incredible ability to choose how we respond. And if we are able to bring awareness to that intense emotion, and then we practice acceptance of it and also acceptance of the situation in that moment, then we're able to drop into a space of freedom. So awareness creates a choice on how we can respond. And when we realize that in that moment we're entangled in our thoughts or our feelings and our emotions, then that awareness gives us the space, gives us the opportunity to choose our response. And if we choose acceptance in that moment, we're going to release some of that toxic energy that we're experiencing, some of that entanglement that we find ourselves in, and we're going to find a greater sense of peace within us.